Your 15-year marriage isn't dying, it's being hijacked by a biological time bomb. One day she's your devoted partner, the next she's a stranger chasing dopamine on a dating app. In Canada, we call this finding herself, but psychology calls it an identity collapse. At 40, a woman's brain literally rewires, turning your stability into her prison. She isn't running to a better man, she's running from the mirror. Today, we're dissecting the brutal neurochemistry of the midlife detonation. If you think your loyalty makes you immune, you're living in a fantasy. Welcome to the truth nobody dares to tell you. Pull up a chair, friends. I'm glad you could join me tonight for this conversation. I know many of you are watching this from your living rooms in Oakville, Calgary, or maybe out in the Maritimes, looking across the kitchen at a woman you've shared your life with for 15 or 20 years. You've built the dream, haven't you? You navigated the housing market, you survived the sleepless nights of early parenthood, you planned the annual trips to the cottage, and you thought you were safe. You thought that because you were a good man, a provider, a protector, a faithful partner, that the foundation of your home was made of granite. But I want to talk to you tonight, heart to heart, researcher to man, about the tectonic plates shifting beneath your feet. There is something happening to women when they hit 40 that the polite society of Canada simply refuses to discuss at dinner parties. We wrap it in euphemisms like personal growth or finding one's spark, but if we look through the lens of evolutionary biology and neurological research, we see a much more clinical and terrifying reality. One day, she is the woman you know, the steady heartbeat of your family, folding laundry and reminding you of your dental appointments. The next day, she's downloading dating apps, investing in provocative lingerie she never wore for you, and smiling at her phone while texting some guy from the local CrossFit gym. You're left standing there, paralyzed, wondering what the hell just happened to your wife. It is happening everywhere, from the suburbs of Vancouver to the high-rises of Toronto. Millions of Canadian men are witnessing their dependable, mature wives transform into what I can only describe as teenagers with wrinkles. The most disturbing part of this phenomenon isn't just the betrayal itself, but the fact that everyone, our media, our therapists, our social circles, acts surprised when it happens, as if the warning signs weren't written in her biological code decades ago. You think you know her, don't you? You think 15 years of shared history and the children you raised together act as a shield against the chaos of the world. Brother, I say this with all the warmth and respect of a peer, you are living in a fantasy. There is a ticking time bomb in every woman's psychology, and the data tells us it detonates somewhere between 35 and 45. It is not a possibility, it is an inevitability of the human condition. The only variable is the radius of the blast and how much of your life is left standing when the smoke clears. Why do we ignore this? Why do we fail to realize that the woman who hits 40 isn't the person you married? I'm not talking about her getting wiser or more confident. Those are the pleasant narratives we tell ourselves. I'm talking about a fundamental, aggressive rewiring of her brain chemistry, her priorities, and her entire sense of self. Think back to when she was 30, she was likely content, finding purpose in the nest you built together. But the woman at 40, she becomes desperately, almost pathologically hungry for validation. And that hunger is a force of nature that can destroy everything you've built in a single weekend. To understand why, we have to look at the foundation of sand that society forces women to build their self-worth upon, their looks. From the moment a girl is born in our culture, she is programmed to believe that her value is inextricably linked to her beauty. Be pretty, be desirable, be the object of men's attention. That is the software running in the background of her mind. For 20 years, from the age of 15 to 35, this program runs flawlessly. Men chase her, compliments flow without effort, and she moves through the world feeling inherently valuable because she is wanted. But then, biology performs its cruelest trick. It begins to take back what it gave. As she crosses the threshold of 40, she looks in the mirror and sees a stranger. It's not that she's suddenly unattractive, but she is different. The face that used to turn every head in the room now struggles to get a second glance. The body that once made men lose their words now receives nothing more than polite smiles from the barista. This isn't just vanity, my friends. This is an identity collapse. When your entire sense of self is built on being desired and you feel that desire evaporating like morning dew, who are you? Imagine you're a professional hockey player. Your whole life, your worth, your ego is tied to your physical dominance on the ice. Then age catches up. You aren't bad, but you aren't the star anymore. You can't do what you used to do. Now I want you to multiply that psychological crisis by 10. That is what is happening in your wife's head when she realizes her prime is slipping away. Instead of transitioning gracefully into a new phase of life, a phase defined by depth and character, the modern woman often panics. She rages against the reality of time. She declares war on the mirror, and the first casualty of that war is almost always your marriage. Have you noticed how she reacts to compliments lately? At 22, a compliment was just background noise to her. She knew she was hot, she didn't need you to tell her. But when a 42-year-old woman gets that same compliment from a stranger, her brain explodes with a dopamine hit so powerful it's comparable to a drug. It is proof, it is validation that she isn't invisible yet. That one comment from a stranger suddenly becomes more valuable than 10 years of your quiet devotion. Why? Because your devotion is obligated by a marriage certificate. The stranger's attention is chosen. This is the dirty secret of the Canadian middle class that nobody wants to admit at the hockey rink or the office. Married women over 40 are the easiest targets for seduction. Not because they are inherently bad people, but because they are starving for a specific type of validation that a husband, by definition, cannot give. They want the thrill of being chosen by someone who doesn't have to choose them. Your attention doesn't count in her internal ledger anymore because you're locked in. You're the father of her kids, you're the guy who pays the mortgage. Of course you think she's attractive, you have to. But that random guy at the coffee shop or the new coworker who lingers a little too long at her desk, that's the pure stuff. That is the proof she's still in the game. Once she gets that first taste of outside validation at 40, the countdown has begun. It's inevitable. She remembers what it felt like to be a fantasy instead of a reality. Your love is stable, it's predictable, it's safe, and at 40, safe feels like a coffin. You want to know the exact moment the danger zone begins? Watch her eyes when she talks about her past. If she starts talking about her university days or her ex-boyfriends with a wistful smile instead of relief that those chaotic days are over, the fuse is lit. If she mentions her wild years with a sparkle that isn't there when she looks at you, she is already mourning a version of herself that she intends to resurrect, even if it costs her everything. We have to look at the brutal biology here, the stuff they didn't teach us in school. A woman's brain literally rewires itself as she ages. The chemical reward system that kept her satisfied at 25 is running on fumes by 45. Think about it. At 20, just holding hands could make her heart race. At 40, her neurological pathways have changed so drastically that she needs an emotional earthquake just to feel a tremor. Your romantic dinner? Her brain processes it as routine maintenance. Those intimate moments you've perfected? They register as background noise. She is desperate to feel alive again, desperate to matter, desperate to be more than just the aging wife in the suburbs. This is why the most vicious betrayals, the ones that leave you blindsided, usually happen after 35. It's a desperate grab for a spark. I've seen it countless times in my research. The church-going mother who runs off with the trainer, the perfect wife who blows up a 20-year life for a guy she met in an Instagram comment section. And the husband always says, I never saw it coming, but did you really not see it? Did you not see her staring at her reflection with disgust? Did you not notice her lighting up for strangers while she was dimming for you? The signs are there, but we are conditioned to be blind to them. It starts with the nostalgia. She begins romanticizing a past that probably wasn't even that great, but in her mind it represents the time when she was the sun that everyone revolved around. Then come the new friends, specifically the divorced women who claim to have found themselves. These aren't friends, brothers, they are dealers. They push a drug called You Deserve Better. They gather for wine nights in North York or South Calgary, and those nights are nothing more than grievance sessions where your stable marriage is reframed as a prison through a poisonous, resentful lens. They tell her that her feelings are the only truth that matters. Then there is social media, the ultimate gasoline on this bonfire. She's not comparing her marriage to her neighbor's real marriage. She's comparing her behind the scenes to a digital fantasy. The algorithm knows she's panicking, and it feeds her exactly what her brain wants. Stories of brave women who left their boring lives to find passion at 42. It tells her it's not too late. Physical changes follow. First, it's the new skincare, the obsessive diets, the procedures she once mocked. Then, she starts wearing clothes that belong in her teenage daughter's closet. She isn't trying to look good for you. She is trying to look young for the world. There is a palpable desperation in every workout and every practice selfie angle. And then the emotional withdrawal sets in. She needs me time. She has commitments that never existed before. She's either picking fights over the way you breathe, building a case against you, or she's eerily pleasant because she's managing the guilt of her secret plans. What infuriates me, as someone who studies the health of our society, is how Canada's culture encourages this. Every magazine, every talk show tells her she should never settle. They validate her panic and celebrate her destruction of the family unit as empowerment. They tell her that her happiness is more important than her children's stability. But they never tell her the truth, that the excitement she's chasing is just brain chemistry, not meaning. They don't tell her that the butterflies are just anxiety, not love. They don't tell her that she is trading a deep connection for a shallow high that will inevitably crash. You could become the perfect husband tomorrow, you could lose the weight, make more money, do more chores, and it wouldn't matter. Because perfect is predictable, and your predictable love does not release the dopamine her aging brain is screaming for. She is looking for novelty, and you, by definition, are the opposite of novelty. You are the man who has seen her at her worst, and in her crisis she hates you for it. She wants to be a mystery again. She wants to be someone's fantasy instead of someone's reality. Have you noticed her spending more time with those divorced friends? Watch closely. Nothing validates a woman's bad decision like watching another woman make the same one. They will reframe your decade of support as a decade of suppression. Your reasonable expectations of a partner will be labeled unreasonable demands. The reality she refuses to see, the one she is shielded from by the you go girl culture, is the aftermath. They don't show the woman 6 months later, sitting in a smaller apartment in a less desirable neighborhood, realizing the new guy was just another flawed human being. They don't show her spending Christmas alone because the kids, who aren't as resilient as the therapist promised, chose to stay with their dad. They don't show the moment she realizes she traded a lifelong partnership for a temporary hit of validation. Men and women face aging through completely different psychological frameworks. In Canada, a 45-year-old man is often told he's entering his prime, the silver fox era. He has resources, experience, and his value in the dating market often stays steady or increases. He operates from a place of abundance. But a 45-year-old woman is told by every billboard and advertisement that she is expired. Every birthday is a funeral for her youth. While men are told they are like wine getting better, women are told they are like milk going sour. This terror drives a behavior that is fundamentally different from a male midlife crisis. A man buys a Porsche to feel young, a woman destroys her family to deny she is old. Her crisis doesn't just embarrass the family, it levels it. She will rewrite the history of your entire marriage to justify it. Suddenly, we were never really happy. Every good memory is deleted. She needs you to be the villain because admitting she destroyed a good thing for a feeling would break her. I remember a case of a man whose wife left after 18 years, claiming she'd been miserable the whole time, despite love letters she'd written just months prior. It wasn't a lie then, and it wasn't a lie now. It was a new truth created by a panicking brain. And the kids? They are the collateral damage. She tells herself they want her to be happy, but kids don't want a happy mom who lives in a different house. They want stability. Her need to feel 25 again is being weighed against their emotional security. And in the 40-year detonation, the ego usually wins. It's fascinating and tragic that this happens just when life should be getting easier, when the kids are older and the finances are stable. That's when she has the time to scroll, the time to compare, and the time to realize the gap between her 25-year-old dreams and her 40-year-old reality. Reality always loses to fantasy, doesn't it? The most dangerous moment is when she attaches those fantasies to a specific face. A coworker, a trainer, an ex. Once she has a target for her new life, the seed grows like a cancer. She'll swear it's innocent, just catching up, but the phone becomes a guarded fortress. She's either building a case against you or managing her guilt. But the truth is, once she starts down this path, the woman you married is already gone. Even if she comes back after the adventure fails, she's a stranger carrying another man's memories. I know women who had everything, the home and the bridal path, healthy kids, a husband who adored them, and they threw it away for a bartender who noticed their eyes. Not because the husband was bad, but because he was familiar, and familiar doesn't get you high. They know they're traumatizing the kids, they know they're throwing away a legacy, but the fear of aging without one last dance is a more powerful motivator than love. They choose their ego over their family. When you understand this, you realize it's not personal. She isn't leaving because you failed. She's leaving because she is failing to accept reality. You are just the one standing in the way of her war against time. You were there when she was young, and now your presence reminds her that she no longer is. The cruelty of being abandoned after years of loyalty is a bitter pill, especially when the culture applauds her for it. No one talks about the husband trying to explain to the kids why their world is broken. No one talks about the cost of a woman's midlife panic. She was raised to be a princess, told she'd always have options, and no one prepared her for the wall. No one taught her that beauty depreciates and character endures. So she follows her feelings, and as we know, feelings are a terrible compass for a life. If your wife is approaching 40, you need to watch not for cheating, but for the panic. The obsession with youth, the resentment of her responsibilities, the nostalgia for a life she never actually had. These are the tremors before the explosion, and when it happens, don't say you weren't warned. Friends, we've covered a lot of ground in this first half. We've looked at the why, the neurochemistry, the identity collapse, and the cultural enablers that lead to the detonation. But what happens next? What does the war actually look like, and how do you protect the things that matter? I'll be back in a moment for part 2, where we'll dive into the aftermath and the hard truths of survival. Stay with me. Welcome back, brothers. Take a breath. I know the first half of our conversation was heavy, but we aren't here to just wallow in the problem. We are here to analyze the mechanics of the aftermath for the sake of your sanity and the future of your children. As we continue this psychological autopsy of the midlife detonation, we have to look at the scorched earth policy that often follows the initial explosion. In my research, I've found that the most baffling part for Canadian men isn't just that she leaves, but the way she leaves. It is a total erasure of the man you thought you were. This is where the educational value of our study becomes vital. You need to understand a concept called cognitive dissonance. When a woman who has been good and loyal for 20 years decides to do something bad, like abandoning her family or engaging in an affair, her brain cannot handle the conflict. She cannot be both a good person and a homewrecker. So to survive her own guilt, her psychology performs a radical surgery. She rewrites the narrative of your entire history. This is why suddenly your 20 years of support are reframed as financial control. Your desire for a stable home is labeled as emotional suppression. She isn't just leaving the marriage, so she is incinerating the evidence that the marriage was ever good. For you, this is soul-crushing. You pull out the photos of the trip to Whistler or the videos of Christmas morning, and she looks at them with a cold, detached expression, claiming she was faking it even then. Do not fall for this trap. This is not a reflection of your reality. It is a symptom of her psychological survival. She must make you the villain so she can remain the hero of her own liberation story. Now let's talk about the children, the silent observers of this biological storm. In our modern Canadian divorce-positive culture, we are told children are resilient, but the research suggests otherwise when it comes to the midlife detonation. When a mother's identity collapse takes priority over the family's stability, the children lose their primary North Star. They aren't just losing a home, they are losing their faith in the permanence of love. As an educator in this field, I urge you, do not become the reactive parent. When she rages, you must be the granite. When she chases the dopamine high of a new life, you must remain the guardian of the old values. Your children need to see that while one parent is chasing a shadow, the other remains rooted in the truth. This is the hardest part of the war, remaining a man of character when the person you trusted most is attempting to assassinate yours. What happens when the new life she's chasing inevitably fails? Because it will. The high of being desired by a stranger has a shelf life of about 6 to 18 months. Eventually, the trainer, the coworker, or the soulmate she found on Instagram becomes just another man with morning breath and bills to pay. When the novelty wears off, the invisibility she was running from returns with a vengeance. This is the stage of the great regret, though she may never admit it to you. She will realize she traded a kingdom for a trinket. She traded the man who knew her soul for a man who only knew her mask. For those of you watching who are in the middle of this, I want you to realize that you cannot fix her relationship with time. You cannot love her into accepting that she is 45. That is an internal battle she must win or lose on her own. Your job is to protect your assets, protect your heart, and most importantly, protect the emotional development of your children. We are living in a time where loyalty is treated as a secondary virtue and feeling good is the ultimate god, but meaning isn't found in a dopamine hit, it's found in the things that stay when the thrill is gone. It's found in the 30-year marriage, the grandchildren, the legacy of a life well lived. Don't let her crisis convince you that your devotion was a waste. It wasn't. Your character is your own, and no one, not even a panicking wife, can take that from you. I want to leave you with some food for thought tonight, and I really want to hear from you in the comments below. Your stories are the data that helps other men realize they aren't alone. 1. Have you noticed a shift in your partner where her nostalgia for her wild years has started to overshadow her appreciation for the life you've built together, too? How has the "you deserve better" culture or social media influenced the stability of the marriages in your social circle here in Canada? 3. If you've been through this detonation, what was the one sign you ignored that you wish you hadn't? Please share your experiences in the comments. Let's build a repository of wisdom for the brothers coming up behind us. If this analysis brought you value or gave you a lens to understand your own life, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are committed to digging deep into the psychological truths that modern society is too afraid to touch. Before you go, I want to leave you with a blessing. May the Lord watch over your household. May He grant you the strength of a lion and the wisdom of a serpent as you navigate these trials. May your heart remain firm in the truth, and may you find the peace that surpasses all understanding even in the midst of the storm. God bless you and stay strong. We'll talk again soon.